Sweet as. Welcome to Good Humors Podcast. Mark, Lucchiari. How you going,
That's
mate?
the one. Really good, man. Really good. Thanks. It's good to be here.
Mate,
Yeah.
it's so nice to have you in my little bedroom studio. I've just done back-to-back podcasts, so the brain's all fired up. I'm ready to go, and I'm very intrigued by your story. You sound like you've had quite the journey, and we're going to learn some really interesting stuff today. I've had Harry Bink lined us up to catch up, a great friend of mine, a massive mentor. You are to him, so he's like, you got to get Lucch on. He's going to blow your mind, and I'm sure my audience is going to love getting to know you. Well, I get to know you as well.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, like I said, it's an honour to be here, and yeah, thanks to Harry for connecting us.
Sure. So the first question I open every Good Humans podcast with is very similar. So, well, it is the same question. So what it is what are you grateful for right now?
Being alive, man. Living, and actually being alive. Having the tools and the mindset to actually live life, not just freaking exist. Yeah, beautiful. Not just survive, actually live life, to the fullest. So a lot of things have got me to this spot, to where I am. And I'm just grateful for all the little things that happened to me. Traumatic, amazing, all the in-betweens. Yeah. So
well, I'm excited. I'm excited to get to know them all because it sounds like you have had a crazy journey and we're going to work our way through it right now. So before we kick off, I have shown you quickly, our sponsor is Drink a Repper, the brain performance drink, all natural, 3 ingredients, New Zealand Euroberry, pine bark extract, and L-theanine. Basically taking the world by storm. You know quite a lot, I'm sure, about performance and the importance of taking care of yourself. This is a product that I'm going to get you some to take home with you today because it's an amazing product. It takes care of our brain short-term and long-term. So we're going to open it. You're going to try it for the first time.
Awesome.
Do you like blackcurrant flavor?
I do.
Okay.
And it looks like
this is pretty strong, this one. The performance is strong, so we're going to be fired up. So
perfect.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, man.
Welcome. It's delicious.
Oh, yeah, man. That's nice. Super
nice.
refreshing. I feel smarter already.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to send you home with a case and you can let me know what you think of it.
Perfect.
But
Take over the world.
Let's get into your story.
That's really good.
Let's rewind back to the start. And where'd you grow up? What was life like as a kid? You told me off air you did have some trauma as a kid, as much as you're willing to share. But what shaped you as the man you are from that sort of formative years?
Yeah. Look, so I was born in Melbourne, Victoria, actually in Ferntree Gully in Melbourne. And I had a life traumatic incident which shaped my life pretty much, from the very start. I lost my dad to suicide as I think I was 5, about to turn 6. And it literally has shaped me who I am these days. So I got a pretty big taste of trauma and what life is really about at a young age. And when one of the biggest moments in my life was when we were burying my dad. One of my uncles, one of the men there, grabbed me and goes, "You're the man of this family now." He goes, "Don't you ever let another man tell you different. This is your family. You're the man." And literally, it's been how I've lived my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was, unfortunately, it stole a lot of my childhood memories. I don't have many good childhood memories.
Do you have any siblings?
I've got a sister. Yeah, a younger sister. So she doesn't really remember my dad at all or any of the stuff. Now look. As much as every boy's dad is their hero, my dad was a super violent man, and it was a violent upbringing for my mum. We were living in refuges and stuff like that. And the amazing woman that she is, she got through it all and brought us up. And even though I have memories of a lot of violence from my dad and from ongoing partners after that, still every boy's hero is their dad, and mine still is as well. Even I think my mum doesn't like me saying that because she's the one that brought me up and made me who I am. But the act of what he did and the act of a dad is what shaped me, and it still does to this day, whether it was such a traumatic thing. But that's why I am the person I am, I suppose.
Yeah, wow, man, thanks for sharing that. It's so gnarly. Like, people have to go through something like that at such a young age, grow up without your biological dad there helping you become a man. So what was school like for you then once you went into school, once you're doing primary school, let's fast forward to high school. What was the high school experience like for you coming from, I guess, a broken family? Yeah,
look, it was fun. High school was pretty cool. It was pretty fun. I wasn't the most popular kid, but was in the popular group. But I got through high school with Aggression, a bit of aggression. I was a pretty violent kid myself. Not towards, definitely not towards the weaker, definitely not towards females like I'd witnessed my whole life, and not towards weaker people, just more towards bullies. I kind of hated men a lot, so I was a bit bigger than most of the kids. So my group of friends, I was kind of the defender, I suppose. Yeah, we were all young surfers growing up on the Goldie and getting in trouble, and the boys would get into shit, and I'd finish it.
How old are you?
I'm 44.
Do you know if you would have been a few years older than Fisher and stuff?
Yeah. So he was at I've come from Strikeforce Muay Thai gym. He was there training, and all that crew. A bit younger crew, but we're all
Fisher's
kind
my
of
brother-in-law.
Oh, really? There you go. Yeah, we're all kind of connected. We were Burleigh boys. I'm Miami Burleigh boy. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it's a small world, mate.
Where'd you go to school?
Miami High.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I've spoken there a few times.
Yeah, really? Yeah.
So going through school, where did you sort of have your vision set where your future was going to be? You said you're training at the Muay Thai gym. I know you're Australian champ of Muay Thai, and we'll catch up to that part of your story. But throughout high school, where did you potentially see your future going?
Man, I literally had no idea at all. Like I was playing, I thought a bit of a lie there. I was playing footy. I was AFL for the Burleigh Bombers. And I had this dream of maybe being an AFL player, being a professional athlete. I think like every kid does. But in kind of career goals and buying a house, all that, like nothing at all really. Like we were quite a well-off family before my dad passed away, and we lost everything after that. And I think my mum was just in survival mode. So all I saw was that kind of below the poverty line kind of family. Like not that we were super poor, but there's just never that set of buying a car or a house or anything like that. So I didn't really have any goals or visions, except for maybe being a professional footy player. I didn't have any idea about career or anything like that. But I was lucky enough to fall into a trade kind of after year 10. I left school and I was just hanging out with one of the footy guys, and I was down at his house, and his dad owned a plumbing company, and his mum loved me and was like, "What are you doing after year 10? Or what are you going back to school?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not. I don't think I'm allowed." But she's like, "Well, go down and ask Big Jed for an apprenticeship." And he was this big, scary man. When you're 15, kind of your mate's dad is a pretty scary guy. And I was like, "No, I can't do that." And she's like, "Well, you wait here. I'll go down and see him." And then she comes back up and goes, "Go down and see him in his office." And I went down. He's like, "You want an apprenticeship?" I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't even know what a freaking apprenticeship was, really. And he's like, "Well, you start tomorrow." So that was like literally the day after finishing year 10, and had no holidays and straight into a plumbing apprenticeship, which I probably didn't appreciate at the time. But now, yeah, man, I'm pretty thankful for them giving me the opportunity.
So you're a plumber now?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
And you got a plumbing business and stuff?
I've got a plumbing business, yeah. I've always had a plumbing business. I always try to get away from it though. Like, I kind of hate plumbing, but yeah, like I always try to get away from it. But it's something you could always go back to. I tried all these different sports and all these different little, everything different. And a lot of people didn't even know I was a plumber because they thought I was a professional athlete for years. Yeah. And I just had a little side gig always going. Usually have a couple of contractors working for me.
So I think it's, I personally, if I wasn't getting paid to surf when I was already in year 10, 11. So like staying in school was a pretty easy path for me. But I think like if you're not like pretty set on going to uni, I think dropping out and doing an apprenticeship and being like finished your apprenticeship at like 19, 20 is like one of the smartest career paths for like, especially for a young guy who doesn't really know what they want to do.
Yeah.
It just seems like such a good one to be able to do your 4 years. You've got something to lean back on. And yeah, I'm sure probably looking back, you're like, oh, it's so good to have that from a young age rather than so many finish school and then go to a trade. It's like you're 2 years ahead.
For sure. And I've seen it happen with mates that will go into private schools and that, and they finish year 12 and then become plumbers.
Yeah.
And I'm 2 years ahead. And I've been lucky enough to pass on to my older son. I've got a 24 today, actually. It's his birthday today. And he bought his first house at 22. He left school in year 10. Started working for me. He's like 3 years out or 4 years out of his apprenticeship already. And got his own home. And my younger son, he's 15. He just finished year 9 last year, and he's not gone back for year 10. He's started an apprenticeship with me as well. And his goal is to beat his brother in buying a house. He wants one by 20. So
good on him.
Yeah, look, and they're both they weren't not academic at school, but just like you said, they didn't want to follow a path of a career that needed a lot more schooling. So why waste another couple of years? Like, having a house at 22, like that's pretty crazy for my oldest boy, like, so.
Tell you what else is crazy, having a house at 22. If my math is correct, you had a kid at 20.
Yeah, I did, man. Yeah,
so let's talk about that. You go from finishing school quite young, apprenticeship. You must have just finished your apprenticeship. Did you have a partner from high school that you were with for a while? And
well, so my partner, which I'm still with today, her name's Portawini. She's a Māori girl that's been over here for a long, long time. We were in year 6 together in primary school. She was a completely different group. She was the Palmy crew. She was hanging out with all the gangs in the shopping centres. They were doing some bad shit. And we knew each other through primary school and then into high school. She went off, got expelled from nearly every school on the Gold Coast, I think. And we met at 18. She was 18 and I just turned 19 because I'm nearly a year older. And yeah, literally, I was moving to Canada, going over there with the boys, snowboarding like a lot of the crew kind of did back then. And we kind of just hooked up for a bit and she fell pregnant. So I was like, all right, well, here we go. It's time to be committed, be a man. Yeah. And I think this is a big part. Like I've seen a couple of friends back then had kids quite young and took off, and they had stable families. They had a mum and dad where I didn't. So I was like, fuck no, man.
I know what it feels like to not have somebody there.
Yeah. I'm being this kid's dad, whether we're together or not, I'm here for that kid, So yeah. So that was, I just turned 20 and Portawini was 19 when he was born.
Wow.
Yeah. So, man, he got a 24-year-old kid. It's pretty crazy.
How's that being a young dad? Tough.
Yeah. Like, man, I didn't even know how to look after myself. Like, we were just kids ourselves. I didn't even have a dad, so I didn't even know what a dad was meant to do, Like, so I was just winging it all. Like, I was still learning to be a man.
Yeah.
And, I hadn't even bought my first car yet or anything, so I was still learning to be a man. And then I had to teach this kid to, be a role model for this kid. But I actually found it pretty easy because like love comes for free, man. And you don't need money or anything like that to love a kid and give a kid a good life. All you need is, good morals and love. And like that shit comes easy when it's your own kid. Like, man, there was times there we literally were eating 2-minute noodles just to put nappies on Keems, and we had furniture made out of milk crates and literally had a TV that was sitting on top of another TV that was broken, and my friend gave me a car, like we were
grinding.
Yeah, man, yeah. But we still had an amazing life, and we was giving our son an amazing life, or what we thought was an amazing life, I suppose.
Yeah, good on you. So at this stage, you've just sort of like finished doing your apprenticeship. You're working as a plumber then full time to try and get by. Because where does your Muay Thai and fighting and stuff come in?
Well, yeah, that comes in. So I was working as a plumber. I just finished my apprenticeship. I had a brand new Commodore Ute that got stolen. The insurance wasn't up to date. I got ripped off by them. If I knew a bit more or had a bit more of an adult influence from someone, I could have got it. It's a
hard thing. I always think that like the amount of people that must like do their insurance, their tax and stuff wrong because we don't get taught it at school. But then it's like a lot of people don't have family figures that can teach them either. So like so many people must get like stuck in limbo and be like, oh, I didn't even know there was a thing to do, pay tax and get
exactly,
to like,
and this is what you should be learning at school. Like once you get past year 9 or whatever, or even year 8 is you should be learning this shit. Like not Shakespeare and freaking algebra and all this other stuff.
You learn how to manage your well-being, manage your finances, manage your like emotional intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. Learn how to be a man or woman and actually live life. It's crazy. The school system is so flawed. It's a whole subject we could go down and we could sit here for days. But I feel it's super flawed, and hence one of the reasons why I let my younger son finish in year 9 and leave. But So I was an apprentice. Lost my car. Was riding to work for like months and months with 2 buckets of tools on my handlebars, a bag of tools on my back. I'd have to ride from Burleigh to Southport, rain, hail or shine, just trying to make enough money to buy a car, so then we could get this kid around and shit like that. So, there was that. And then, kind of ended up getting the car, and I was wakeboarding at the time. So I was just wakeboarding with a couple of mates just for fun. And then we went out with a guy, took Greg Fells on, his name was Felzuni. He's still around, Felzuni. And he just won the Aussie titles. And he came out riding with us and he saw me ride. He's like, man, you're good. Like, you could ride pro. Like, he goes, but you can't work and ride pro at the same time, and be a professional at the same time.
Had you been riding much, wakeboarding?
Yeah, we were wakeboarding every day, or every afternoon or every weekend. And I went from wakeboarding behind a fishing boat to I met a really good guy called Mal, still one of my best mates these days, and he had a wake setter, the proper wakeboarding boat, and started riding with him. And then that's how we kind of met Falzuni and a few of the professionals that were on the coast. And they were like, man, you should start competing. And I went home and said to the missus, I'm quitting work. I'm going to be a wakeboarder. And look, me and Mel started a wakeboard school at that stage, and I had a few little other things going. I was kind of DJing as well at the time, and I still kept the plumbing going a little bit, but so I started
sort of fall back on. How are you making ends meet then? Were you making
struggling?
Yeah,
just try. You've been a professional athlete, just chasing the dragon.
I've been a professional athlete, but not with a kid to try and provide for as well. Like,
well, man, if you never know if you never go. Really, how many people have said, "Oh, I would have loved to have done that," or on their deathbed and go, "Fuck, imagine I tried that, or I could have done this." So I feel I just try. You fail, you go back. You fall back to I had an apprenticeship. I was a qualified plumber, so I just felt, and I did. I ended up falling back onto it because I think I milked it for 6 years. And
6 years, you're a pro wakeboarder.
Yeah, well, no, I never really made it pro. I rode open mans, and then I competed in a lot of the professional comps, but was never going to be good enough, man. I was with all my sports, I'm not that most skillful, but I usually go bigger and go harder, and hence why I ended up having 5 knee operations. And we were coaching and stuff like that. So, like I said, I had just little fingers in pies. I did have I had contractors for plumbers contracting out, so I was making little bits of money off them, but nothing. I'd make $50 a day off them or something. Where if I was working, I would have been making $500 a day. Yeah. So no, we struggled for a bit, and then it was my wife was like, enough's enough. We've got an $80,000 boat sitting out there. You've struggling to make ends meet. We've got a family and we've got nothing, like you can't even ride. I couldn't even ride anymore. My knees, I think I was on my 4th knee operation by then and couldn't even ride anymore. So it was like, let's get serious and let's buy a house. And that was about 26 or 7, I think. We started looking at, I went back into plumbing full time and we got a house by about, I think, 28, something like that, I think it was.
And then where does Muay Thai come in?
So I knew all the boys from Strikeforce Gym. I trained a few times over the years. We played footy with a couple of the boys fighting. Like I was saying earlier, I was a bit of a rat bag and getting in punch-ons a bit. And one of the boys, Danny Dudowski, my mentor and really good friend in Muay Thai, he's like, come down the gym, I think you would love it, And I went down and actually started training a bit while I was wakeboarding and just training a little bit. And I really fell in love with it. I stopped fighting on the street pretty much, once I started learning to fight. And loved the sport and did it for a little bit of fitness, a bit of cross training and stuff. Yeah. Then after my 5th knee operation, I kind of went into a bit of a slump for about a year and a half or so and put on a bit of weight and was like done. I couldn't do the sport I loved anymore. I had 5 knee operations. I don't think I'd walked much in the last 3 years. I was on and off crutches for like 3 years.
How's your mental health through these stages? Not getting to do what you kind of set your mind out to do and trying to maintain a positive mindset with a young family and through your 20s is hard enough without a kid. I'm just trying to wrap my head around my career. If I had a kid as well, must have been tough.
Well, I think it was very tough. And I definitely during those times was super deep and dark, but this is where some people use traumatic incidences or stuff that happens to them as an excuse, and some people use as motivation.
Hero or victim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was down, don't worry, I was down dark in a lot of times and didn't have the tools to that I do now to handle depression, because I still suffer depression quite severely now. But I think I just got through. My wife supported me and just got through. I think, doing all the stupid stuff back then too, smoking bongs and all the stupid stuff you do kind of back then, but just got through because I knew I had to for my young fella.
Yeah.
You just get through, I suppose. I wish I knew
what you know now. Which we'll catch up to once we get to sort of present day, Lucch, like the mindsets, the skills, the things that you do now? Because, Harry said you're a very wise and great mentor and have some really good techniques to just sort of, and just ways to view the world, which is one of the things that I feel like we really don't get taught at school, is just to look at the world through a different lens every now and then, because there's some things that we can change that's so outside the system. But yeah, let's talk about this Muay Thai part of your career, because on your social media, it says Australian champ Muay Thai, Australia's toughest man. Pretty cool little titles to have. So, finishing up after your partner says, nah, no more of this sports stuff, you land back in another sport.
I did, and head deep. So like I said, there was a couple of years of quite down, and then I started training, getting fit again, and then that's when this is a huge relief for mental health and a big part of my life from this stage on, to battle depression, and started just training. And by this stage, my older son was 5, I think, now 4 or 5. So we started taking him down the gym, and he started training. And I was at this stage, I was still recovering from the knee injury. And I started watching him train, and then he got ready for a fight by the time he was about 7. So he had his first fight at 7. But
how's mum letting? I guess if you said mum was a little bit rough in those last years of high school and was a bit at the
mum's had a few battles herself. It's So she was fine. Obviously, watching your kid fight is
scary.
Is gnarly. So he kind of was getting ready for his first fight, and then I started training properly. And I was coming back from my injury. I was getting better. I was better, and he had his first fight. And I think about 6 months after that, I had my first fight in Muay Thai. I'd had a couple of boxing fights before that, when I was trying to beat the depression a little bit after my 5th knee operation. And boxing was fun, but it never clicked as much as Muay Thai. I just loved Muay Thai. And so then we both had our first fight, and then it was 10 years solid of full-time Muay Thai. We moved to Thailand, and
wow.
Yeah, we both fought competitively and at the top of the sport for about 10 years.
So at this stage, when you're training Muay Thai, are you working as well, like balancing the two pretty well now? Like, you've found a way to balance the plumbing and the Muay Thai, or once again did you go head first? Because I can imagine it's probably pretty hard to make a living out of being a Muay Thai fighter.
It is, yeah. And I was working full time at that stage. So I was doing the 6 days a week. Yeah. Training in the afternoons, and then as I started getting better at Muay Thai, I was like, I need to give more time to this as well. I was contracting on high rises. So I had a couple of boys that were working with me as well. So I just gave them the work, was making pretty decent money off them then at that stage. I was personal training as well. So I'd do 3 classes in the morning. This is where Harry comes into the story. I started doing my personal strength and conditioning classes in the morning for like elite athletes. My sponsor back then, Punish Fight Gear and Nutrition, they put me through my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness.
Cool.
And then started training like more so elite athletes. So just a bunch of little things, to make up. So plumbing was not enough to survive off. The personal training wasn't enough to survive off. The little bit of money I was getting from fights definitely wasn't enough money to survive off, and a little bit of DJing here and there, just little bits and pieces, man.
Make it work.
Yeah, exactly. You just hit the nail on the head. Make it work to do what I could do. Yeah. So I ended up diving into it full time. Then I was training twice a day, 6 days a week.
Do you think, because you kind of like brushed over it real quickly, that you stopped fighting in the streets once you began to learn it as a martial art and understand the kind of discipline that comes behind it? How important do you think that was for you to become the man you are today, to not be someone who gets in brawls in the street, to not be the aggressive outside of the gym guy? Are you like, do you look back at that and be like, it was such a pivotal point in your life to learn it as an art and to make it a bit more like, because you seem like such a mature guy now that I can imagine probably don't go and punch people out in the streets anymore.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, not for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. So how important do you think that was for the maybe direction and mindset change for you as a man finding martial arts?
It was an absolute major. Like, the path I was going down would have ended up in jail. So to learn that you don't need to fight. Like, you can get out of 99.99% of fights on the street. You literally can get out of nearly every situation possible if you have the right tools to do it. There's just no need to be violent. Like, there's no need. there is some instances, but
to protect yourself.
There is really no need for it. And it's just not the person I wanted to be. And look, I don't have any regrets of that younger me, because I feel like every minuscule second of your life makes you the person you are. Like we said earlier, the good, the bad, the traumatic, everything, every little part of what's happened to me or what I've done has made me the person I am today. Learning lessons from it. I've maybe been a bit of a dickhead, getting in fights all the time. Well, not maybe, like, yeah, being a dickhead.
Look back at your life, the way you were brought up, it's like the self-beliefs and the kind of traumas that we do carry really shape the way we are. Like you said, if your dad, before he took his life, was super aggressive, like you kind of briefly brushed over, your mum had other partners who mightn't have been great role models. It's kind of all you knew. It's like, it's hard, but it's like it takes a big man to be able to make a change and not blame your story on your actions for the rest of your life and really find that pivot point.
And that's what I was doing too. And you don't move forward if you're blaming everything that happened. You know, I used to do that. I used to be, my dad left me and everything bad's happened to me because of that. And there was a huge pivotal point too. Another one that I went and me and Portuini were struggling a little bit at one stage there, and we went and seen a counsellor. And the counsellor, after a marriage counsellor, kind of, and then after that, the counsellor pulled me aside, and when we're leaving, he's like, "Man, have you ever talked to anyone? Like, you have a fucking gnarly story. Like, you should talk to someone.
Yeah, you need some help."
And I'd never talk to anyone. Like I like I said, that point when I got told I'm the man of the family, so I never put another man above. Like, I never respected another man above me. I'd seen all those partners that were violent to my mum. This is why I was a bit of a violent man, because I wasn't being violent towards women. I was being violent towards men because I just had this really bad outlook on men. So I just wanted to bash men that were bullies and stuff like that, I ended up seeing a counsellor talking, which is the first time I'd ever talked about anything, and was just like, when I walked out of that counsellor session, I was like...
How old were you when this was?
I would have been like 24.
Okay.
Yeah, and was just like, whoa, what the hell? I just felt I felt tall. I felt like the world had been lifted off my shoulders. And yeah, it was such a gnarly experience to actually talk out and just someone to sit there and listen and say, and
it's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just
empathize.
And just, I thought this drink was going to give me some good vocabulary.
Mate, it'll come. You're doing very well.
So, it just was, it's not your fault. And I was like, wow, it was such a big, big moment of my life. And from that moment on, all the negative that I had, all that negative and aggression and negative energy, I flipped it around and turned it positive. And from that day on, all that, so what you see now and this person you get now, reverse that into negative. That's the person I used to be. And what I am now is the opposite of that.
Because you have such good energy and such good, like, positive energy as well. Like, you can feel it sitting next to you. I'm sure everyone listening right now can feel it through their ears. And it's really cool to know that you can find that moment and that it was by seeing a psychologist. And I think it's a great example for anyone out there who might feel a bit lost, feel like they haven't really had anyone to speak to. I think there's a crazy stat, like 60% of men say they don't have somebody that they feel like they can actually talk to and be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe it was higher.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So it's like, I think that's a good example, just a good little point for anyone listening right now. If you feel like you are a bit lost, like, the strongest men are the one who can put their hand up and say, you know what, I need to work on myself. There's things that I need to change to make myself a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really feel, and I speak about it a lot now. Like I'm quite open about my depression. And I even remember a chat I had with Harry when I think one of his family members was suffering a little bit of depression, and Harry didn't really understand it. And then one day he was with me, and then I was saying about how I was depressed. And he's like, "What? You get depressed?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Like, I suffer it bad. Like, I go through some pretty bad, stages. Like, can't leave the house." And he was like, "What? If you do, like, this must be a thing, Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, man. So speaking about it, and I'm quite open about nearly everything in my life. Some people say a little bit too much sometimes, but I feel it can help. If it helps, like, some people sometimes think I'm bragging or something about what my life is and this and that. And I was, I did this today. We jumped out, we surfed this morning, we jumped out of planes, we rock climbed, and life's amazing. And people are like, oh, yeah, as if you did that. I'm like, it's not bragging. I'm just trying to say how good life can be. Yeah, like, this is life, man. It's amazing. Take it by the balls and live it. Like, So So yeah, speaking about this, and I feel more people need to speak about it for sure. Like I'm a massive advocate for it. I'd love to. I've wanted to touch into it a little bit more, maybe speak a little bit more about it. We've actually got a project going at the moment that is a charity-based project. We can talk about it a bit later, but that's we're trying to help out of bringing monies into charities. So, there's obviously mental health in that. So we're trying to give back a little bit.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let's catch back up to that part of the story. I want to quickly go through this Muay Thai part of your career to get to a point to be Australian champs, pretty big deal. And then tell me about Australia's Toughest Man competition. How'd that come about?
Yeah, I won a couple of Aussie titles along the way. We moved to Thailand. We were over there for about a year and a half, and we come back. It was kind of at the end, getting towards the end of my career. I think I was about 36 now, and my wife was like, "Oh, you're done. I'm sick of you dieting and training all the time and being grumpy." And so we got back, and I retired. And then about a year later, I'd seen this comp. It's called the Aussie Toughest Man. It was all styles. You had to be invited into it. It was over 80 kilos and under 80 kilos. 16 people in each division. And you fight through the night, and you win, you go on the next one, you win. So you can end up having four fights in the night. And I seen that, and I was like, I'll win that. And it was 20 grand, which was a bit of money. Yeah, I just like, I just knew I was like, I'll win that. That's my jam.
Muay Thai is a pretty good discipline to have. Like, what was it? Was it like cage match fight?
It was K1 rules kind of. So it was in a ring. So you could kick. You could do one knee, very K1. And boxing, but you couldn't do. So there was MMA guys in it, but you couldn't take people down to the ground.
Okay.
We couldn't clinch and hold on a knee. You couldn't elbow. In the final, you were meant to be able to elbow, but I just knew it was going to be a competition of being smart and tough, and which I knew I was. Like I was not the most skillful fighter, but I trained hard. I knew I'd be fitter and stronger than everyone in that division. I knew it. I just like, did
you fight the under 80?
Yeah, I fought the under 80.
Cut down, sick.
Well, I used to fight at 74 kilos. So 80 kilos for me was really easy. Like I'd only been retired for a year. I was sitting at about 86 or 85 kilos, I think. So to get to 80 was easy. I didn't even have to. I just cleaned up my diet. Yeah. So that I was the first fight of the night. And was the last fight of the night and won the thing.
What sort of gloves was it?
They were boxing gloves, so normal boxing gloves. We were 10 ounce under 80 kilos. Or 8 ounce? No, 10 ounce. Yeah, 10 ounce. So just normal boxing gloves. And like I fought a MMA guy in the start. Beat him pretty easily. Like I probably could have stopped him, but there was no need. I was outpointing him. This is the thing. I was in a stage of my career and life that I
could be smart enough.
I lost a bunch of fights from winning and thinking I'm going to stop the guy and then get cut. Like I got cut real easy. I got big scars all over my head, and with Muay Thai, all it takes is one little elbow. It doesn't even have to hurt, but it opens you up. And so I lost a lot of fights from being stupid. So I was like, I can win this because I got the smarts. I'm fit enough and strong enough. And so beat him on points. And then the second guy was a boxer who, mate, I've never been hit so hard. He was a big Islander boy, lovely guy. So I ended up just leg kicking him because I went in and boxed him at the start. I threw a couple punches and he hit me and I was just like, holy shit, I'm not getting hit by this guy again. So I just leg kicked him twice and stopped him and
chopped him down.
Yeah, and then I fought a Thai boy, Apposite, who he fought at like 68 kilos normally, but he had 300 plus fights. Like was one of the world's best fighters. I've been living in Thailand. I know how they fight. I know their style. And I just outpointed him. It was a pretty close fight, but I just outpointed him. And then I fought this MMA prodigy in the final and same thing, just outpointed him. He was really good, super close. Like it nearly could have gone either way. I knew I'd won. Like I knew in the fight when I
feel it.
Yeah. When he had given everything and wasn't stopping me. And you just know, when between fighters, when you kind of don't give up, but when you're like, yep, this guy's got me, anyway. So won that. So it was awesome. It was good money. And it was a good way to finish my career. Even though I'd already retired, I retired when coming back from Thailand. A lot of my friends hadn't seen me fight for a lot of years. So it was at hometown. I think we had like 7 tables and hundreds. I sold a couple hundred tickets.
Wow, that would have been how sore and bugging me by the end of the night.
Yeah, like oh man, yeah, I was pretty banged up.
Worse than any of your other fights, like that night, more cooked.
No. Like I'd been beat up a bit more than that. Like 5 rounds of Muay Thai, like proper Muay Thai, like is freaking brutal. Fighting guy, like. You know, mate, you usually get banged up by leg kicks and that. So when you're fighting a guy and you fight 5 rounds of proper Muay Thai with someone who's a big leg kicker, mate, you're sore for months. Like you're waking up in the middle of the night for a month because you're not your leg's bruised, your bone is bruised. You know, and it takes a lot of time for that bruising to come out. You know, so but like I was pretty sore, but the elation of everything, you know, it was a pretty good way to finish. I don't know many fighters that have actually finished as on top. You know, so. I was done and super content. Like, I got offered to go back and fight again the next year to defend it, and I was just like, "Nah, man, I'm done." Like,
I'll retire the toughest man.
Fully, yeah, the Aussie's toughest man.
Man, that's such a cool story. Like that career from like I had no idea that like the wakeboarding as well. Like, it's so cool that you've gone from plumber to bit of a rough kid, wakeboarder, to then finding fighting and really sort of centering yourself and actually seeing it as the art that I guess martial arts are. And then obviously raising a family during this time as well. So what was that next stage like when you finished your career in fighting, going like, all right, where now? Was it back to plumbing, or was it like, all right, I need to share some of these lessons I've learned in life with younger people? Where did you see yourself? You obviously had the strength and conditioning where you met Harry. Where did this mentoring younger guys to sort of take life by the balls? This was sort of Harry described you, what you taught him.
Yeah, well, I think that just kind of organically grew really with that. With everything that was happening. I did a lot of other sports that got put back on the back burner. So skydiving was a big part of my sports as well.
Really scary skydiving story.
Got some pretty cool, we've got a pretty cool skydiving and base jumping stories. But
give me one. Give me your scariest moment.
Of what? Okay, so skydiving. We're actually right in the midst of making a documentary at the moment called Impact. I was knocked out at about 10,000 feet, completely KO'd. We were doing an 18 way. It's called an angle. So there's 18 of you all flying like across the sky like this. You got people on their back.
I think Harry probably wasn't meant to, but I'm pretty sure he showed me.
It should be released about mid to end of this year, or late this year. Sorry, there's the documentary, and it's all about mental health and recovering from traumatic incidences and stuff like that. It's called Impact because the noun of impact is 2 objects colliding, and the verb is the effect. So the effect that this traumatic incident has had on a lot of people. So long story short, I was knocked out, completely KO'd by another guy. He hit me. He was probably doing about 800 kilometers more than me. So he hit me at probably 100 kilometers an hour. His knee in the back of the head. I fell out of the sky.
Didn't he shatter his knee or something too?
Completely exploded his knee. It's over 2 years now, and he's still in recovery. They're talking another like a 5th operation.
So he hit you pretty hard.
He hit me 100k an hour knee to the back of the head, crushed in my helmet.
Lucky you didn't die just from the impact.
Exactly, you know, it was super lucky. But it knocked me out. I fell out of the sky. I started coming conscious, but I couldn't remember anything. One of the boys dove down to me like a James Bond movie and tried to get to me and couldn't. He had to pitch his parachute at quite a low altitude, and I just kept falling. And you can hear him screaming like, no, Lucch, no. He's like, fuck. And you just see this little dot like me falling out of the sky, and it looks like I impact the ground, but we have a safety device called an AAD, and it registers when you fall through 1,000 feet or at a set height.
Your safety.
Yeah, it falls and it registers. You should be going slower. So it fires your reserve, and it fired my reserve. And the first speed change was about 580 feet, I think it was. And my canopy actually opened and flew forward at 136 feet, which is like 36 meters above the ground. My canopy actually inflated and flew forward. I still didn't do any inputs controls. We flew, it was right down in Byron Bay, right beside the highway. I literally fly underneath and land underneath a set of power lines on a beautiful green bit of grass in the front of a farmer's house. I could have landed on the highway. I could have landed anywhere, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and landed on the ground. So that was, pretty gnarly one. But
that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to see the doco. That's like what a story to be able to survive and talk about. Have you read or heard much about Emma Carey's story?
No,
The girl who fell from the sky.
Yes, I have.
She's on the
I did look up that a little
have
bit.
her on
Yeah,
my podcast soon. I've chatted to her about it.
She was doing a tandem, and
the chute didn't go, and she landed on the guy, and they both survived.
Yeah. It
doesn't make any sense.
It's actually happened a few times, man. No shit. It has actually happened a few times. It's
Does that just blow your mind that people can fall from the sky onto the ground and survive,
and then people can fall off of the first step and die. You know, that's man. She tight. Like
Life.
I actually had a few incidents in a row. I had a base jumping accident literally 3 months before that, where my canopy opened in like a 270, spun me around, flew straight into a guide wire, wrapped right around the guide wire, slid down, hit the joiner. I can't remember the actual name. Hit that, ripped the nose cell, ripped every line on the right hand side. Bar 2 lines. I only had half the canopy inflated and pretty much nearly.
I think I've seen that video too. Actually,
yeah,
I think I wasn't meant to.
Harry's
not meant to show.
No, I don't think he was there.
I have seen that one too.
Yeah.
So I've seen both of it. Yeah, I'm certain I've seen both.
That one's all right. That one's there to be out. But the actual the collision of the skydive, we're not releasing until the documentary.
Yeah, I just saw it very, very.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, a lot of people have seen it. I can't even believe it hasn't been released yet because it is.
Oh my god!
You couldn't even if you were trying to make a blockbuster about a skydiving accident, you couldn't come up with the footage we've got. There was 18 of us on the jump. There's all different camera angles. There's on the ground when we land, you know, like I land and I'm like, oh, and then one of the boys who followed me down, he lands over near me and he lands really hard and I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know what's going on yet. And I'm like, whoa, are you right, Roger? And he's like, am I fucking right? And he's running over and I'm like, you're right. And he's like, am I right? And I'm still, then it's all processing, you know. And I'm like, oh, what happened?
So did skydiving come into your life post your fighting career?
No, I mean, I've been jumping for 15 years, 16 years, but it was on the back end. And then fighting takes over everything in your life.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Surfing.
Once the fighting stopped, you started taking the jumping a bit more seriously.
Yeah, and this is where we went and we were saying how where I am now organically grew from after fighting, because fighting literally is who you are. There's nothing else outside of it. Like, even your family gets put on the back burner. Like, and then I just, training people and back in jumping and just back telling my story, like you said, just speaking and like connecting with Harry and all the moto boys and just I don't know, just kind of organically grew that people would come to me and ask me for advice and help and before I know it, I'm like, holy shit, I'm getting old. I'm giving advice to people, you know,
mentor.
Like yeah, exactly. I didn't
the mentor that you never had.
Yeah.
Let's go down that line for a second. What sort of advice do you have for like, I guess, young men who are maybe a little bit lost, like when Harry and a few of those guys come to you? What are some of the values and some of the skills and techniques that you do have in your toolbox now that you use to manage your depression, to manage those difficult times that we do find ourselves in life?
Yeah, well, it really depends too on their situation, where they're at. But obviously I feel like breath work, yoga, taking time out just to be with yourself is huge, because you don't do that when you're younger and you don't have the tools to know how to do that. You just keep all this noise in your head and you never actually solve anything or take the time.
Self-awareness yourself.
Exactly. Take time to step back, focus on yourself, becoming a better person, not using the big thing we talked about before is not being a victim, using anything that's bad that's happened to you as motivation. Because it is so easy to use it as an excuse, and then you get stuck in that same old rut as using it as an excuse. But just really to, oh man, I don't know. It's a hard question.
It's a hard question because it's a blanket question. It's just like, what are some of the sort of non-negotiables that you do now? Like breath work's a big one for me too. Like I did breath work this morning. I'm going to yoga, the Sava after this. So 2 things you've like kind of nailed in the head that are important to me. But what are sort of some of your techniques that you make sure you're doing, or what do you know your mental health sort of declines when you stop doing?
Yeah. So, like I said, breath work and yoga and positive affirmations, I literally do every day, every single day. And if I miss 2 or 3 days, I can feel it. Activities, being active, being physically active and mentally active as well. So keeping, having projects, having goals, setting goals.
Challenging yourself.
Exactly. Challenging yourself. Being part of nature, like getting out of nature, getting out of the city and just going and being part of nature, or whether it's on the beach as well. is a huge one. And a huge one for me too was to lose your ego a bit, to find out who you really are. And sometimes you need to go, like I went and did the Toad ceremony. I've done a few ceremonies.
Cambo?
5-MeO, DMT. So you do it with the shaman. So 5-MeO, it's hands down the strongest psychedelic in the world. You would have heard Joe Rogan and Mike Tyson.
DMT and stuff?
What's that?
More than DMT?
It is DMT.
Okay.
So there's N-N-DMT, so the two N's, and then there's 5-MeO, which is DMT but with another molecule attached to it. And it only becomes, it's the poison secreted off a toad that's only found in this tiny little desert between Mexican and US border. And you smoke it through a pipe. It's like a crystal, and it lasts about 15 minutes to half an hour. And it's called the God molecule because with normal N-N-DMT, it's you experiencing. You might talk to entities and see all this stuff, but it's you. With 5-MeO, there's no you anymore. You are just everything. So how I got onto it was I heard Mike Tyson talking to Joe Rogan about it, and Joe Rogan said to Mike Tyson, like, how did you become so reflective like this? You were seeing Mike Tyson, he was the baddest man on the planet.
And then
he's just this
detached,
super beautiful, reflective human, And he said, what happened? He goes, I lost my ego. I smoked the toad and found out who I really was. Because your ego is this this thing that protects you, and it's there, you need it. And it gets you things in life. Like if without a good, strong ego, you won't have the drive.
It's a bad rap ego. Like
it does,
ego, like ego is us, but then it's also learning that you're not your ego as well. It's the biggest paradox there is ego. It's you need ego to be a strong, resilient person, but then you also need to be able to
not be consumed by it, not be consumed by it, and let it.
So when did you first do this trip? Because it's so funny. I feel like stuff like this gets such a interesting sort of view through the eyes of the public, but I mean I've had experiences with different things along my career that have been super interesting. When I lived in Byron, we did my friend who I was living with, who have Life Cycle, the mushroom tincture brand, took us and we did a peyote ceremony.
And
so it's probably the mildest sort of psychedelic that you can do, that's with a shaman and in a sweat lodge. But then there's ayahuasca is the next sort of step, and then the modality that you went through. So where'd you do it, and how'd you come about? Because it's quite difficult to find.
It is.
Obviously, don't have to give away.
No, it's all good, man. It is, and the toad will find you as well. You can't go searching it out, and if you are searching it out, it's not the right time, or it's not. I just started listening to podcasts and just was trying to better myself and educate, listen to podcasts, and was being reflective
and unlearn what society's put in your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just, I don't know, I was on a bit of a self-discovery, doing breath work and all this stuff, just trying to become a better human, and started hearing about it. And then I heard Mike Tyson talk about it. I was like, wow, Mike Tyson was Mike Tyson is my favorite boxer, and I was like, man, this is the baddest man on the planet, and he's this beautiful, reflective man, and I wonder who I am. I wonder who I am without my ego. I'd love to do this, and I've never even taken many psychedelics. Then, I was kind of the same stigma as everyone. Oh, psychedelics, you take it, and never come out.
Yeah.
This and that, and
funny we get told those stories. Get stuck in a trip,
created by media and people that it's a whole other rabbit hole. We can go down that one of why it's bad. I feel it's getting accepted a lot more now, and it's getting spoken about a lot more. But I was thinking about it, and then I just one of my buddies who lives out at Nunnabah Valley Way just said to me, man, I think you would enjoy this. I've got there's a ceremony going on in this location. Would you be interested? And I was just like, what the fuck? I was just thinking about this.
This stuff actually happens around
here? Yeah, I was like, what? So I was like, yeah, man, for sure. And went out there and literally changed my life. Another one of those pivotal moments. It just changed me again. I become so reflective, and I could start speaking my emotions a lot more, talking about depression a lot more. This is a big part to play with becoming the person I am to Harry and the younger crew, and to even older people, whatever, just to my friends and family, was just learning who I really was, not the person I thought I was through my ego. Who I actually really was, is I am this sensitive kind of guy that is actually doing all right, and has some wisdom to give people, because you don't have that you always have self-doubt in yourself. And I actually was learned that I'm a pretty good person, you know, like, and can help people. So, it was a huge change. And I've done two ceremonies now. And that was a couple of years ago, my second one. And yeah, like I'm sure I'll do more. I definitely don't. I've had the opportunity to do more. And I actually, the last time I had the opportunity, I was like, do I need it? Maybe I do. And as soon as I started thinking like that, I was like, no. Like,
not the right time.
No, yeah. Whereas this, the second time I was offered it was like, wow, I still need,
it's more I need to learn right now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, it's very interesting, man. It's so good to see that mushrooms and that are starting to get used now. Like I think Australia is the first country in the world to start prescribing mushrooms for people with, mental
PTSD
health issues.
And
I've researched it a lot. My shaman he does huge things for PTSD for American soldiers and stuff like that. Huge results. Like the results are insane. But this is a whole other thing, is it's something that grows organically. It doesn't cost people money. Big pharma loses out, so they don't want us to be healthy and.
Yeah, it's just wild, isn't it? Like I look at. There's so many like angles we could take this conversation. The idea that mushrooms grow out of like cow poo and it's illegal. And like marijuana is like illegal, but it's like these are all these medicines that have been used for thousands of years by every culture and every generation around the world up until the last 50 years since we've created pharmaceuticals. And now they've been all outlawed. Like, no, these are really bad for you. These are the worst things ever. But here, take these, what we created in a lab and eat this and keep eating it and paying us for it. Once you start to question that, like, I mean, I work in mental health, so I have to like kind of be pretty careful the way I talk about this stuff. But I feel like I'm pretty open-minded to understanding that we've got by for a long time without pharmaceuticals, humans. That there's got to be something in that. You know what I mean? Like things like yoga, breathwork, meditation, kindness, gratitude, all of these things don't cost anything. When you start to really question the capitalistic system that we live in, it's like, well, who benefits if we start doing all these things that are natural that we can do ourselves? We benefit, but nobody financially benefits.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah. And that's I had a full first-hand experiences. I was diagnosed with the bowel disease about 10 years ago, ulcerative colitis, put on medication for the rest of my life. And I was, at that time, I was fighting full time. I was super fit and I just kept getting these blood infections like cellulitis and infection and in hospital all the time. I was actually in Thailand and I was in hospital there and said to the doctor there, I'm like, man, what's going on? Like, I'm as fit as you get. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm trained every day. And he's like, oh, Colizide, the medicine you've been prescribed, it lowers your immune system. Did your specialist not tell you that? I was like, no. And he goes, oh, you just do these few little things, take L-glutamine and just some natural immune boosters. And he also said, he goes, the Western science doesn't like to say it, but, ulcerative colitis, I feel, is controlled by, brought on by stress. And I'd asked the doctor what brought it on, and they were like, no, this is nothing. And I am quite a stressful person, and I was like, holy shit. So I'd learned to manage my stress, change my diet a bit, upped my natural immunity, been off medication. I've been in remission for 7 years. It's like all just by...
But imagine how many people are just on a medication and have just said yes to it because we don't know better than the doctors, but it's like doctors are working for the pharmaceutical companies as much as they're working for us to try. And don't get me wrong, the medical industry obviously has had so many breakthroughs and are making people live longer.
Oh, for sure.
Giving people far more chance. But I think the proactive side of medicine is so far behind.
Yeah. Nah, man. There's, every medicine you take, you nearly need to take another tablet to counteract what the side effect of that one was. And yes, there's been some amazing stuff and man, like we're living longer and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's not much like blueprint to get off medication usually. Nah. It's like, it's a pretty funny system, but I don't want to go too much into that. Let's sort of to get to the end of this. What have you been up to now? What's the last couple of years look like for you? Where do you see the next couple of years going for you? Obviously, in such a happy, healthy space right now. It seems like you got a few kids who are adults now or on their way. What's the future looking like for you?
So at the moment, we're super busy. We've got this film Impact that we're bringing out, which we're hoping is going to inspire a lot of people to talk about. It's like I said, it was delving right into mental health, where Got a sports psychologist on there, psychologist to speak about what happens to people with traumatic incidences and stuff. So that's a big project we've got going at the moment. You can find it on my Instagram, and it should be released about mid to late this year. And then we also have Give and Get. It's an app that we're developing at the moment, which we're putting a lot of energy into, and it's about trying to bring donating to charity into the modern era, make it like fun and interactive, while linking doing what's kind of quite a fad at the moment and stuff like that is doing challenges, for charities.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of trying to bring it all together and put it in one space, put it in one app. We're trying to bring the trust back into charities. So all the charities that are on our platform are screened and categorized with like a platinum bar, which means 100% of your dollar or what you donate goes to the cause. Gold is 85%, and we rate them. So we take the hard work out and trying to bring the trust back into charities. Because as you probably know yourself, a lot of charities don't have a good rep. Even when I go to donate, I'm like, I wonder how much of this $10 is actually going to the cause. So we're trying to take that out. And like I said, bring it into the mobile application era, because a lot of charities are still door knocking. Like I said, make it fun, interactive, and use the social networking of people doing challenges. So you're not only donating and helping a cause, you're getting the reward out of doing the challenge as well. So we have physical, we have nutritional challenges, mind and soul by meditating, and nice. We have community as well, picking up rubbish, and we also have like a leaderboard so you can challenge people around the world, and nice. So you can compete against it as well. And yeah, there's a whole big concept of that. Of version 2 is bringing corporations into this, and instead of just making it peer-to-peer, of really bringing the corporate world into the app. And yeah, we're hoping to see some really good things with that, and just make a change. There's 5 of us that are in it, plus my wife, which makes 6. The other 5 guys that are in it are 4 guys. Sorry, are really good mentors and friends of mine, and we've all had the chat. We're all kind of doing relatively well in life. We've all had ups and downs, and all wanted to give back. And this is how the vehicle that we're hoping it's going to be able to achieve that. So that's kind of, we're riding the beta testing of that at the moment. So that should be a soft launch of that should be coming out shortly. And so some really exciting things. My boys are getting older. My older son's got his own house. My younger son, he's 15, and he's an amazing young man, and just keep living life. Keep maybe trying to inspire people as well along the way, of just by living life to the fullest. One of the big things with my accidents, I had those couple of near-death experiences the last couple of years, and a lot of people said, aren't you scared of dying? And I was thought about it, and I'm like, nah, man, I'm not. Like, not at all. But what I am scared of is actually not living life to the fullest. I don't want to be 90 years old laying on my deathbed and be going, fuck, I should have done that. I could have done that. I could have tried harder at this. I could have been a better person, So right now I'm just striving to be the best person that I can be for myself and for my family, and the people around me, trying to help them, bring them up as well.
I love that. I actually read something on Instagram yesterday, and I loved it. It relates a lot to that. It's like, I want to die as young as possible, but with the oldest age.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like amazing. That. It was like, you hear it first, you're like, I don't want to die as young as possible. You go, but at the biggest number possible. It's like, that's a good one.
That is, man. It's amazing. And just keep being a good human.
Absolutely. Well, that's the question that I'm going to finish on, because I do ask all my guests the same last question. I've done 90 of them, and everyone's given a very different answer. So I'm going to ask it to you as well. What does being a good human mean to Mark Lucchiari?
Damn, it's a big question. So first off, being good to myself. You need to be good to yourself and love yourself. I find a lot of people don't do that. And if you can't be a good human to yourself and love yourself, which I struggle with every day, accepting who and what I am and everything, master that, and then that just spreads out to everyone. Like you said, the vibe, this, just being a good person to yourself and being that good person just spreads. Radio. And all of a sudden you get people saying to you, look up, you asked the question before, when did you start, knowing you were inspiring people? It's like, well, I didn't. It was just people started telling me that I actually, I've got a cool story. And
I mean, there's nothing better than people talking positively about you behind your back. I think
Yeah.
that's like what everyone should aspire to in life. And
yeah,
obviously that's how a lot of people speak about you. And like Harry said so many good things. I feel like I'm very lucky that people would probably say quite similar things about me. And I feel like it comes down to living by values. If you can be very core in your values, then that's kind of where it all starts from. I guess last little question, what would you, if you had to pick your top 3 values, I don't know how much about you identify with certain values, but if you pick top 3 values of yours that you want to make sure you live by each day, what would they be? I'll tell you, do you want me to hear?
Yeah, let's hear yours. Yeah.
So the 5, and this is what I run my workshop, is all around living by values rather than living by achievement. It's like, if you can live by your values, you're not going to be disappointed if you don't win the next surf comp. It's like, well, I've shown up as a good person. Sweet. So my 5 are responsibility. Step 1, you got to take responsibility for your own life. Gratitude, empathy, mindfulness, and kindness.
Yeah.
If I'm practicing those 5 every day, if I'm mindful, if I'm being kind to people, if I'm looking through life with a bit of a different perspective sometimes with empathy, and then being grateful for the life I live, like all the rest of my life since living to those values seems to have fallen into place around me. So yeah, what would be your couple values that are important?
Yeah, a huge one for me is acceptance of everyone around me, no matter their situation. I find we all get very easy to judge people, and I feel the whole world's set up to judge, and so acceptance is a huge part of my everyday. Gratitude is a huge one as well. Being grateful for everything, and it's another one that's so hard that I literally have to practice every day. Yeah, and the value of positivity, of spending positivity, and yeah.
I bloody love it. Well, I feel every bit of that from hanging out with you today, man. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know your story. Hopefully we can continue a friendship now after this. It's great to put a face to the Instagram chat we've been having. And yeah, man, if anyone wants to find you on socials, where's the best place? I will leave it all in the show notes, but now's your kind of last little moment to plug anything you want anyone if they want to find you.
Yeah, cool. So my Instagram is just Lucch, and then our the Give and Get. So everything's on my Instagram. So everyone just jump on my Instagram, and then you'll be able to find the Impact documentary, see a bit of my funny life, and yeah.
Well, mate, I'll leave it all in the show notes. You can find it all there. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. Hopefully, we'll push out the movie a little bit once it comes out and reshare the podcast. But mate, thanks so much for jumping on Good Humans Podcast.
Thank you very much. I absolutely appreciate it.
Legend,
cheers, bro. Cheers.
Sick.